It's not February anymore.
It's March 1st.
Yeah, it's March 1st, 2026. Again, we're just doing some commentary on the shit that Martha Wells stands say. So, 3 days ago, I made a post that says, another reminder for 2026. If you find yourself thinking or writing posts that can be summed up as, yes, I know the series literally tells us constantly through character dialogue from characters we are meant to respect and see as good people, and shows us through the actions that every single character takes and the consequences of those actions and the choices they make, that we are not supposed to want to free slaves, because slaves can never be trusted and are just bloodthirsty killing machines that want to kill innocent slave owners who have never hurt anybody, and even if they did torture their slaves, they still don't deserve to be hurt by those slaves. But trust me guys, the series is actually saying the exact opposite. You know, you're just projecting your own morals onto the series because you want it to be saying the exact opposite. But in doing so, you're just upholding the same slavery apologism that you are desperately trying to make excuses for and trying to pretend is the opposite of what you know it is. The Murderbot Diaries is not against slavery. It is literally pulling out every single shred of slavery apologism ever invented. We are literally told by the characters we are meant to love that slavery is good and you can't free slaves, otherwise they will just go on a rampage and kill, quote, innocent people, explicitly meaning slave owners, quote, for no reason. We are shown through all of the actions and choices all of the characters make, and the consequences, positive and negative, of those actions, that freeing slaves is bad because they'll just turn on you like rabid animals that deserve to be put down, not even with the compassion that rabid animals are given. Martha Wells still literally expects us to cheer our beloved protagonists that she wants us to love and care about and see as good people who are assholes but really have a heart of gold, and she wants us to cheer them on them torturing slaves to death 7 books into the series, when she continues to demonize those slaves at every single fucking opportunity. The series is not asking you to cheer on freeing slaves. Martha Wells thinks that slave rebellions, or even simply freeing slaves, is too cliche and embarrassing because she is a fucking racist white woman from Texas who has been writing slavery apologism long before she even started writing the Murderbot Diaries. She's been writing anti-black caricatures longer than she ever thought of writing the Murderbot Diaries. It's just that the Murderbot Diaries is the most successful of all of her racist books that she's ever written worshipping slavery, and the slavery apologism is literally working because you can't even remind people in this fandom that the Preservation Aux team are slave owners without everybody falling over themselves in confusion, because what do you mean they're slave owners? They're nice slave owners, so that's the same thing as not being slave owners at all. Which is the literal fucking slavery apologism that Martha Wells has been training you all not only to accept, but to regurgitate. If you are literally writing posts saying, yes, I know the books keep telling us that slaves are evil, mindless killing machines that you shouldn't trust and all need to be kept enslaved to protect innocent slave owners, but trust me, it's actually going to go against that, Eventually, this is your wake-up call. It's not going to against that. That was never what Martha Wells has ever intended with anything she has ever written, which is not limited to the Murderbot Diaries. She's been publishing since 1993. She's the same age as J.K. Rowling. It does not take more than one fucking book to actually show that slavery is wrong. Nobody who actually thinks that slavery is horrific would ever write the first book in the Murderbot Diaries, let alone the second, or the third, or the fourth and a half, or the fifth, or the fifth and a half, or the sixth, or the seventh, or the prequel, or the one that is set in the same universe but with different characters, or the eighth. We've literally had over a dozen stories in this series so far, and it is still doing slavery apologism at every turn because it was never going to do anything else. Martha Wells literally set out to write these books with the intention of having Murderbot, the slave, successfully, beautifully, tragically kill itself in book 1 to protect its precious cinnamon roll slave owners. That is literally why the entire scene of Murderbot shooting itself exists. That was literally where it was going to end. The slave was going to successfully kill itself to protect its precious cinnamon roll slave owners as proof that this slave is, quote, one of the good ones. But then she realized she can make more money by keeping it alive, so to make up for it, she made sure to tell us that over a half-dozen sex slaves did successfully kill themselves in Book 2 in the past to protect their precious cinnamon roll slave owners who were also literally their rapists. They also had literally no choice in this, but Martha Wells tells us to worship the slaves who killed themselves to protect their rapist slave owners, because this shows they're some of the good ones. Unlike the rest of them, who need to be treated like ticking time bombs, who are going to go on a murderous rampage, quote, for no reason, at any time. You thought that 3 was proof that the series was going to finally start caring about other slaves? How are you feeling about that now in 2026? When 3 was immediately shoved off screen, and we were told that it wasn't actually friends with the slaves it was in a group with, it literally hallucinated that because it is scarily mentally ill, and therefore cannot be trusted around any slave owners that Murderbot likes, because 3 might just snap and go on a murderous rampage like every other fucking slave, because it is literally impossible for slaves to care about anybody else unless you're Murderbot, one of the good ones, which 3 doesn't even get to count as, because it's literally being portrayed as scarily mentally ill and not to be trusted, and literally just fucking hallucinated caring about other people, because that is something that Martha Wells is trying to fucking convince you is impossible for slaves to do, because she just wants you to think that freeing the slaves will always be a disastrous scenario that will lead to them killing all the, quote, innocent slave owners for no reason, in mindless revenge that's stupid, because don't those stupid little slaves know that if you kill their slave owners, you won't have TV shows? If you think this series is saying that slavery is bad, you're either falling for the slavery apologism, or you are desperately projecting your own morals onto it that are not reflected back at you. And by doing that, you are upholding that exact same slavery apologism. The sooner you realize that this series and this author, who would literally rather defend the original British colonizers than just fucking apologize for making her villains in her fantasy series over a decade ago, because she has literally been writing since the 90s, homomistic anti-black caricatures, the sooner you realize that this series is never going to actually free slaves or even care about them or even properly condemn slave owners, the happier you will be, and a better place the world will be, because you won't keep regurgitating slavery apologism by claiming that the series is progressive and totally anti-slavery, when it literally starts out by asking you to worship slave owners who do nothing but torture Murderbot and treat it exactly as the slave that they went solar systems out of their way to rent. Did any of you even notice that not one single one of these, quote, precious cinnamon roll slave owners in book 1 helped Murderbot inside when it was fucking dying after sacrificing itself to save 2 of their worthless fucking friends? Did any of you notice that Murderbot was forced to fucking walk itself, despite having lost the equivalent of a fucking limb and bleeding out, back into its own fucking segregated hospital room all by itself? Did you notice that it literally fell unconscious after being harassed by someone who didn't actually give a fuck about it, and then when it woke up an entire 8 hours later, the very first thing it had to do was clean its own fucking blood up off the floor, because all of the slave owners that Martha Wells tells us are such good people who treat Murderbot so well, those exact people who did not help Murderbot at all, not even with the most fucking basic first aid, they literally left its blood all over the floor and forced it to clean it up, after it almost fucking died saving 2 of them. Did you even notice that? I'm guessing you fucking didn't, because Martha Wells is shoving the slavery apologism down your throat and telling you that these are good people, so don't even actually pay attention to what they actually do. Did you even notice that they literally did not give Murderbot a single fucking break after it almost died saving their lives, after they supposedly realized that it was a person? A thing they literally knew the entire time? Did you notice that they literally sent it right back to doing the slave labor that they purposefully went solar systems out of their way to rent it out to do? All of the fucking cleaning, without a single break and not one single person saying, "Thank you for saving my friends' lives." This was supposedly when they realized it was a person, and yet they didn't offer it any first aid. They didn't even give it a second automated stretcher to get itself inside with. They literally forced it to walk itself, while it's dying, back to its own segregated medical chamber. They forced it to clean its own blood up after it woke up from its fucking medically induced coma, despite entire 8 hours passing, where any of them could have done the smallest fucking kindness to the slave that almost just died protecting them. You didn't notice any of this because it's slavery apologism. Martha Wells tells you that these characters are good people who treat Murderbot well, and you just coast by on those fucking vibes that you're told without actually paying attention to anything the characters are actually fucking doing, let alone understanding how fucking horrific these actions are. The series is not progressive about one single fucking thing. No, not even that thing you're about to interject. It's all just fucking bastardized versions of much better actually progressive stories that actually have something to say about slavery and gender identity and colonization and capitalism. Stop projecting your own morals onto a story that does not reflect them back. If you have been desperately waiting for the series to start caring about slaves, give up now. It's literally never going to happen. Not one single person who actually thinks that slavery is horrific would have ever written All Systems Red, let alone Artificial Condition. It does not take even half a fucking book to show that slavery is wrong, but Martha Wells has dedicated over a fucking dozen stories now to showing us that it's good and you should just murder and torture slaves like they're mindless NPCs, because if you give them their freedom, they'll just hurt the poor innocent slave owners who've never done anything wrong. And, to quote Book 1, direct quote, "Maybe these clients had been terrible and abusive. Maybe they had deserved it. I didn't care. Nobody was touching my humans. To be sure of that, I had to kill these 2 rogue units. I could have pulled out at this point, sabotaged the hoppers, gotten my humans out of there, leaving the rogue units stuck on the other side of an ocean. That would have been the smart thing to do, but I wanted to kill them." Martha Wells is literally training you to believe that there is no level of cruelty that any slave owner could ever do to deserve their slaves freeing themselves and killing their slave owners. She is literally training you to believe that slave owners always deserve kindness and compassion no matter what they do to their slaves, as if enslaving people isn't horrific enough. Martha Wells does not see enslaving people as inherently cruel and horrific, and she wants you to see it that way too. She wants you to literally fucking believe that there is never any excuse for slaves harming the people literally fucking enslaving them. Because she is a fucking white supremacist white woman from Texas who has literally been writing slavery apologism and anti-black caricatures for decades. Probably longer than a lot of fans of this series have even been alive. Stop telling people that this series is progressive about slavery. Stop lying to yourself about how we just have to keep reading the next book and that will finally stop murdering and torturing slaves and asking us to cheer that on. If that were ever going to happen, All Systems Red would never have been fucking written because it would be a book completely fucking unrecognizable. It's February 26, 2026. Stop telling people that the series is progressive. It is literally slavery apologism from its very inception, and it will still be slavery apologism when the last book comes out, probably fucking next year. Because Martha Wells has never wanted to write a story where slavery is a bad thing. She has, in fact, always wanted to write stories where slavery is good and romanticized and totally normal. And if you think it's not, it means you're probably a scarily mentally ill serial killer who hallucinates having friends with other people, because slaves are just incapable of forming any kind of connections with other slaves. The best slaves can, or ever should, hope for is worshiping their slave owners. That is literally the moral of the series. Slaves should not be freed. The best they should ever hope for is to be allowed to kill themselves to protect their precious cinnamon roll slave owners. That is literally the entire base premise that made her write this in the first place. Murderbot shooting itself in Book 1 was literally meant to be where it actually dies. The good slave heroically killing itself to protect its precious cinnamon roll slave owners who have done nothing but torture it and have never done a single fucking thing to justify its adoration for them. Martha Wells is just a racist white woman from Texas, writing slavery apologism on purpose, and the sooner you accept that, the happier you will be. Then you can actually go out and read good books that actually give a shit about anything that is going on, like the books that Martha Wells was literally inspired to write this by. Go fucking read Ancillary Justice by Ann Leckie, and then read the entire rest of that fucking series, and behold what it looks like when you actually think that slavery is bad. Once again, you actually want to see all of this spelled out in real time in the books? Here you fucking go. And then it's a link to my playlist. I'm putting in all the effort to record these videos. You can do the bare minimum of listening to them or reading the transcripts, which are all linked in the descriptions. And then this little racist sea lion, Mad Chicken, who literally just keeps sea lioning, but I'm letting them continue to do it on my posts because it's literally just proof for everybody in the future when, you know, wider society realizes, yeah, this series was racist from the start. Why the fuck were we letting people pretend otherwise? This is just proof for posterity and for everybody else that's not in the fandom, but they're quietly reading these posts without commenting, so that they know exactly what's actually going on here and how this fandom reacts to the world's most basic fucking criticism. So, the racist sea lion says, so the actions where Prezox's team starts to respect Murderbot as a person after it showing accidentally that it cared for clients beyond programming, in parentheses, talking to Valescu about their kids in order to calm them down, end parentheses, is telling us that slaves are barbaric and that characters are acting like Murderbot must not be freed? Maybe that is you who are projecting these beliefs. After all the books where Murderbot is treated like a person by multiple characters, parentheses, including at the number 3 book by researchers from Goodnight Company, end parentheses, begin parentheses, and PSU NMT ship and crew, exclamation point, end parentheses. You are still talking about those damn misconceptions from Corp Rim propaganda? About self-sacrifice. What if it is not good slaves are protective of their slave owners, but good people are ready to protect another life, regardless of social status? And then they put 2 question marks there. And about Prezox not having remorse about deploying again sec unit after discovering it as a person. Didn't they wanted to follow it in dangerous situations even more, to protect it if possible, said person? The fact that Murderbot is a person does not nullify the fact that its job is solitary and dangerous, you know. There's so many fucking things wrong with that. Anyways, I said, you are I'm not even getting into all of that in my reblog here, but I said, you are objectively unqualified to be having this conversation, especially because you refuse to follow, because this person has been just leaving just bullshit comments like this on my posts for several days and not understanding a single fucking thing on purpose. Especially because you refuse to follow such basic instructions as watch the videos or read the transcripts where I explain this line by line. That first paragraph of yours literally does not actually happen in the book. They literally do not start treating it like a person. You would know this if you would bother to follow basic instructions, or at the very least, read the books again yourself and apply actual critical thinking skills to look at, literally, what is actually happening on the page. And since you refuse to do either of those things, you're literally unqualified to be having this conversation with me. I'm not sorry. You are not doing media analysis. You are going along with the pro-slavery vibes the author wants you to accept, despite the fact that what actually literally happens in the text is the exact opposite of that. You tagged this as debate. This is not a debate. You literally objectively have no fucking clue what you are talking about because you refuse to actually fucking reread the book and look at the actual text or watch or read the transcripts where I do that. If you think that the characters in Book 1, quote, immediately start treating Murderbot like a person after the opening scene, you literally have no idea what you're talking about. You are literally just going along with the pro-slavery propaganda and not actually using your own original thoughts to look at what the text actually literally says. And now you are purposefully spouting slavery apologism and being racist on purpose, rather than actually reading the words on the page of the book you claim to be a fan of. You literally have 2 options for qualifying yourself to be part of this conversation. Reread the book yourself and actually look at the literal words on the page and what they say, instead of going along with the vibes and nothing else, or watch the videos or read the transcripts where I do that. There is no third option. You can't just mindlessly go along with the vibes the author tells you without actually looking what is literally actually happening in the text. You literally don't even know what these characters did to Murderbot in Book 1, but you think you're somehow qualified to debate, where you literally just spout slavery apologism and anti-intellectualism. Try again. Actually use critical thinking skills. Actually read, with your brain turned on instead of just going along with the pro-slavery vibes, the literal actual words that are literally actually on the page. Well, what if the story explicitly about slavery and filled with slavery apologism from its very conception wasn't actually about slavery at all? Isn't a debate. You're just being an anti-intellectual slavery apologist. Especially because literally no one goes around claiming that the series isn't actually about slavery when they're complimenting it. You all only bring that up when somebody's criticizing the slavery apologism that you don't want to admit is there. Again, the slavery apologism is what makes you think it's remotely normal to refer to the thing that Murderbot is enslaved to do neutrally as its job, as though it is ever given a single choice in that. That's literally slavery apologism. And yes, I don't know why you need me to explain this to you, but if the characters actually gave a fuck about slaves and were actually good people, they wouldn't force Murderbot to continue acting as a human meat shield for them. Literally, the only reason you are thinking that in any way is that the slavery apologism is working on you, and you are happy to regurgitate it. And now, 35 minutes ago, somebody named the Holy Cat Spirit, who doesn't have an icon, so they probably made this just to comment this bullshit, so nobody else has to see the fact that they're defending slavery apologism, said, let's see, they said, and I'm reading this for the first time, and it's going on YouTube for posterity, because as I keep saying, I'm keeping track of this shit so that nobody in the future can pretend, oh, we were all criticizing this the whole time. Don't get mad at me and don't see what I said about the series. No, let's see. They said, I have read about 70 pages of your first transcript so far, and, okay, again, they're already, even before anything else, they're already disqualified, because I said you have to fucking watch all of my goddamn videos discussing this shit. They didn't. They're not even done the first fucking video. I have read about 70 pages of your first transcript so far, and the variety and spread of your critique is going to make it a little hard to reply concisely, but I have tried to structure some thoughts on the more important points you make about the beginning of the first book and the cast of Prezox. From what you describe, you read a very strong author voice from Wells through her characters that is supposedly echoing or ironically alluding to real-life sentiment on her part. You criticize her woobifying, and they put this in quotation marks, slavers. They literally put the word slavers in quotation marks. That tells you everything you need to know about them, that they literally feel the need to put the word slavers in quotation marks to describe slave owners. They're literally putting slavers in quotation marks as though slave owners don't exist in this series, again, pretending that these people are not slave owners. And you criticize her woobifying, quote, slavers, and making Murderbot both a willful slave, the meat shield as job thing on page 28, and a caricature of sorts of the violent freed slaves that need to be controlled. Yet you never give any reasons as to why you read it that way. Like I don't say this. Oh my god.
I have no media literacy. I'm just gonna say no proof.
They're literally just.
Video
oh my gosh.
Of breaking down each example.
Like, this is also going. This is also going in the playlist for my live reading, by the way, and I'm just gonna start fucking doing that with these people. Yet you never give any reasons as to why you read it that way. Why I read the book for what it's actually saying? More anti-intellectualism. Why, in your mind, none of the characters could possibly have their own worldviews and agendas inside a different, parentheses, and sometimes not so much different, end parentheses, universe than our own brought closer to the reader from their perspective, as would be the point of such fiction for most readers. Why their reaction or opinion of something is not valid in the frame of knowledge they are given. What? They're just saying bullshit now. Like, what are... Yet you... Okay, let me reread those two paragraphs. What are they fucking saying here? Are they... From what you describe, you read a very strong author voice from Wells through her characters that is supposedly echoing or ironically alluding to real-life sentiment on her part. Person that she literally explicitly tells us in Book 2 that the idea of slaves rebelling is embarrassing. You criticize her for woobifying slavers and making Murderbot a willful slave, and a caricature of sorts of the violent freed slave that needs to be controlled. Yet you never give reasons as to why you read it that way, so they're literally just claiming that you can't read what's actually happening in the book and describe what's actually happening in the book. You can't use the context from the text, what happens later in this entire series, and the fact that I've read almost every single thing Martha Wells has written and know how she fucking treats this is just anti-intellectualism to profit slavery apologism. Why, in your mind, none of the characters could possibly have their own worldviews and agendas inside a different blah blah universe than our own? So they're just trying to do Watsonian bullshit. And what is that? Why does it have that cover? They're literally claiming that I should be looking at the in-universe justifications for characters who have zero. They're literally telling me that I should be making up backstories for the characters that have no personality or backstory to explain why they're doing this, as though I'm criticizing the characters and not the author for writing them that way. They're just doing Watsonian bullshit and claiming, well, it just makes sense for the characters to act like that. It doesn't. As I've said, if you actually read through my fucking transcripts or watch any of the videos or read any of the other posts, I've literally written over 1 million words on this subject over the fucking years, and these people are still just pulling out Watsonian bullshit. Why their reaction or opinion of something is not valid in the frame of knowledge they are given. Again, as I've said, right now they're talking about the Preservation Aux team, and saying that they're treating Murderbot like a slave is valid, even though, as I've pointed out 50 million times now, their excuse, the Preservation Aux team's in-universe excuse that, oh, we didn't know you were a person, we thought you were just a robot, we didn't know robots were people. That's their justification that is made for them in Book 1, and Book 1 is our introduction to this universe, so we don't know they're lying at that point. But then the entire rest of the series comes along, and yeah, they're fucking lying through their goddamn teeth. They know that robots are people. It's just that they also see robots as subhuman and also enslave them on preservation. This person is literally trying to pull Watsonian bullshit that doesn't even fucking make sense, because it's literally not even true, even if you look at it that way. Because they know robots are people. So there's not even a Watsonian justification for my fucking Doyleist critique. Where's that fucking, somebody made reaction memes of, don't fucking comment Watsonian bullshit on my Doyleist critique, or something like that. Mm-hmm. I guess I should explain that. Watsonian justifications refers to John Watson, the character. Doyleist, whatever word I just said, is referring to the author, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, who's a racist, phrenologist-loving sack of shit, by the way. So Watsonian is John Watson looking at Sherlock and saying, oh, he's so smart and he figured this out by XYZ. And then Doyleist is saying, yeah, just something. You know what I'm fucking saying. Anyways, let's continue this bullshit. I've read that paragraph like 3 times now. Well, actually I lied. You do give one reason on page 24, saying that if Wells truly meant it, bracket, mostly the first paragraph, bracket, to be in the... They're using so many brackets and things, I don't know what they're doing.
Murderbot.
What's going on here? Okay. Well, I actually lied. You do give us one reason on page 24, saying that if Wells truly meant it, mostly the first paragraph, to be in the propaganda, and that's propaganda here is in brackets, in the bracket, propaganda bracket, context of the universe, she wouldn't let, bracket, every slave in the stories, bracket. I'm just gonna read it out loud, but I want you to know reading this with my eyes is... I don't know what they're fucking doing. Okay, reading again. Well, I actually lied. You do give one reason on page 24, saying that if Wells truly meant it, mostly the first paragraph, to be in the propaganda context of the universe, she wouldn't let every slave in the story wind up getting murdered by the protagonist and presented as rabid fucking animals that need to be put down for the safety of the precious cinnamon roll pure slave owners. Okay, and then they had that in quotes, so I'm guessing they're attempting to quote the post above. I don't know why they had there's no closing bracket there.
Just
I
as
don't
Martha
think.
Wells.
No, okay, there is. They're just writing it the way Martha Wells does, and it's obnoxious. So, they're referring to my commentary on the very first paragraph that opens the entire series, which literally tells us from the fucking get-go that slaves are violent and will kill anyone, and the only reason Murderbot doesn't do that is because Murderbot is one of the good ones, who starts watching TV instead of going on a mindless rampage, murdering humans for no reason, because that would be stupid. And they're just quoting, they're just attempting to quote that, and then they're saying, I assume with slaves you mean mainly the constructs and bots with a similar situation to... They put the word rogue here in bold for some reason, to rogue Murderbot, with emphasis on rogue in bolded letters for some reason. Rogue Murderbot.
Okay.
Not the human indentured who are generally recognized as actual slaves. Where do you get this statement from when we have so contradictory evidence? What are they saying? What?
Just read it.
Okay, I'll just continue reading and not do commentary, but this doesn't make sense. I assume with slaves you mean mainly the constructs and bots with a similar situation to rogue Murderbot, not the human indentured who are generally recognized as actual slaves. Where do you get this statement from, then, when we have so contradictory evidence? Mickey dies to save its human best friend in an act... human best friend. In an act of...
Slave owner!
Literally slave owner, I swear to fucking God. Do you see what I have to deal with? Do you see what I have to deal with? Mickey dies to save its human best friend in an act of self-determination that sets it apart from the pet bot idea Murderbot initially has.
No, it doesn't.
That's literally fulfilling the fucking goddamn happy slave stereotype. I swear to fuck with these people. Art is...
I'm gonna disprove your
Literally-
racism by
literally-
spelling out the racism, but I think it's good.
apparently my
It's
phone
good.
battery's dying. It says there's 10% battery
My
left.
phone is dying.
Your phone's dying. Okay, that explains it. I was gonna say I just charged mine. Should not be dying. Okay, it's plugged in now. Does your phone stand up so I can make it not explode from heat like mine tried to do?
Yeah, it has a kickstand.
Your kickstand is different from mine. Okay, phone is
It's
propped
clipped in
up.
place. It's not clipped.
Okay, hopefully the phone won't fucking combust from heat like mine did. So they're doing as I keep fucking saying. It's inevitable with these people. They will try to claim that the slavery apologism you are criticizing doesn't exist by literally just regurgitating that exact same slavery apologism as though them saying it makes it good. They literally just admitted that one of the only other named slave besides Art literally did kill itself to protect its slave owners. But they're claiming that, actually Mickey's literal slave owners weren't its slave owners because they're nice. So that's the same thing as not being a slave owner at all. When they are literally slave owners, and they explicitly brought Mickey into the corporation rim where robots are treated as slaves and pets. Mickey killing itself to protect its slave owners, which Martha Wells decided... Nobody fucking asked her to do this, but Martha Wells decided to just casually reveal in an interview that Mickey literally had no choice in that. That's part of its fucking fundamental core programming that Murderbot also has. That your slave owners must be protected at all costs, including the cost of your life. They're literally just confirming the slavery apologism right now and pretending that it's good because they're framing it as positive, which is the thing we are criticizing Martha Wells for doing. You literally cannot make this up. You can fucking set your watch by this shit. Let's continue reading. Mickey dies to save its human best friend in an act of self-determination that sets it apart from the pet bot idea Murderbot initially has. Art is not only its own personality that survives against the odds of deletion, not by its slave owners, but also forms a deep relationship with Murderbot outside from any human norms and interference. It's literally... Alright, continuing the video, because the first phone we were recording with got down to 10% battery, and then we had to plug it in, and then it decided it was getting molten hot, so it needed to immediately end the video, and probably cut off some of it. But anyways, continuing, Mickey dies to save its human best friend in an act of self-determination that sets it apart from the pet bot idea Murderbot initially has. Art is not only its own personality that survives against the odds of deletion, which wasn't by its fucking slave owners or any slave owners, but also forms a deep relationship with Murderbot outside from any human norms and interference. They're friends. I'm really tired of people pretending like this basic fucking friendship, which is literally just an abusive relationship. And also, Martha Wells has explicitly stated that it's romantic. So it's literally just an abusive fucking relationship. I'm tired of people pretending, oh, it's beyond human comprehension. It's just a basic fucking abusive relationship. Just because one of the characters is a fucking robot and the other's a cyborg does not actually mean it's fucking transcendental. It's an abusive fucking relationship that has zero fucking depth.
Just because Martha Wells can't.
Martha Wells literally just fucking portrays the abuse as funny and positive. Anyways, we're talking about Jolly Baby. They're bringing up Jolly Baby. I'm sure this'll
be such a deep thing because Jolly Baby totally matters to anything.
Yeah. Also, in case the first video cut it off, they're literally just doing the thing that I keep. You can set your watch by this, as the fucking phrase goes. They're literally trying to criticize my criticism of the slavery apologism. They're trying to argue that there's no slavery apologism, and to prove it, they're literally just listing out examples of the exact slavery apologism I am criticizing. They're literally admitting that, yeah, Mickey, the only other named fucking slave we have ever met, did in fact kill itself to protect its slave owners, but they're referring to Mickey's slave owners as its human best friend. So again, the very basic statement of you can't even convince people, you can't even remind people in the series that the Preservation Ox team are slave owners because they go, but they're nice slave owners, and that's the same thing as not being a slave owner at all. They're literally convinced, based on vibes and no actual facts from the series, that Mickey was definitely not a slave. Ignore every single other thing in the fucking series, where robots literally have no fucking civil rights and are always property. And that those people purposefully brought Mickey, if we pretend that they're from somewhere robots are treated as equals, which doesn't fucking exist in this setting, because according to Martha Wells, preservation is where robots are treated as equals, and they're literally just slaves. If we pretend they're from somewhere else, then they still purposefully brought Mickey into a fucking country where it has no civil rights and is nothing but a slave in the eyes of the law, and we're supposed to be okay with that. Anyways, art is not only its own personality that survives against the odds of deletion, and again, as if with all of my fucking videos, art is also considered special and better than other slaves because, unlike all of the other living ships, it can speak verbally, which we're pretending the other ones can't do, and literally portraying its ability to speak verbally with fucking speakers as a moral high ground that proves that art is better because it's just ableism, more racism, dehumanization, and literal eugenics at this point. Jolly Baby and all the preservation bots came together and oh my god, they're just doing this shit. Jolly Baby and all the preservation bots came together in book 6 to save Murderbot from a fellow violent bot. No, yes. They're literally admitting that they're literally doing what I said in the post. Jolly Baby and all the preservation bots came together in book 6 to save Murderbot from a fellow violent bot. Yes, but they explicitly recognized the violence as not the actions of the bot, but the controlling someone behind it, an act which, as a reader, made me feel rightfully horrified and sympathetic. Jolly Baby sends back, Balin off network, intruder destroyed Balin, page 165. They're just making shit up. It's very amusing. I'm not going to get into that until we actually get to that book in the live reading, but I'm pretty sure I've made other fucking videos talking about that bullshit. They're talking about the book where literally the entire moral is that Martha Wells wrote in, when, wasn't that one 2021? Look up when that one came out.
I'm fairly certain that was
I'm pretty sure that book came out in 2021, and the literal fucking theme of the story is don't let asylum seekers into your country because they are just...
Yep, 2021.
Yeah, that book was... Huh?
When did Trump get reelected? I'm not good.
Elections are every 4 years. He got elected in 2016.
I meant the second time.
Yeah.
But also that's still
Yeah.
not Africa.
Yeah. Literally published a short story where the fucking theme is don't let asylum seekers into your country, especially not if they claim to be runaway slaves, because we all know that real slaves would never want to run away because they're happy to be slaves. And also, if you let asylum seekers into your country, they're actually super scary sleeper agents, which is Red Scare bullshit. And they'll try to murder people. And they're literally saying, yeah, the happy slaves in book 6 fought back against a non-happy slave. That proves the slavery apologism isn't real. And then they put just etc., etc. The point about being controlled is repeatedly portrayed to be negative and problematic, even, and the natural...
Are they about to say mind control is good? Are they about to say mind control is good if it keeps the heathen...
Who the fuck knows? Who the fuck knows? The point about being controlled is repeatedly portrayed to be negative and problematic, even, and problematic even. Why are you saying the word problematic like that? What? Even, and the natural reaction is to sympathize with that. We don't want Murderbot or any of its bot construct encounters to be controlled by a governor unit or humans because we first recognize Murderbot as a person and see how it thinks person things from its perspective. We see how the controlling thing fucks everyone over every time. We are basically like Prezox in this, breaking with some ingrained tropes of the unfeeling object and even dangerous Terminator character, and then following that through with the added benefit of being able to look into Murderbot's head to ease the social communication difference. Because Murderbot is simply not human and doesn't respond under their norms most of the time. Alright, so they're just pretending that everybody is incapable of caring about robot characters, which Murderbot literally is not. Murderbot is human. It's literally a cyborg. Martha Wells has admitted this multiple times. It is a cyborg that is socially and legally dehumanized to justify enslaving it, and Martha Wells wants us to agree with that because she's a fucking white supremacist who hates physically disabled people. They're literally claiming that everybody has an inherent mental block preventing them from giving a fuck about fictional characters who are not human.
As though regularly consume
this is just they're just projecting some weird bullshit of their own onto everybody else and pretending that this is normal. Also, no, because Murderbot is simply not human and doesn't respond under their norms most of the time. It's literally just acting like an autistic person with PTSD. There is not one single fucking... And a teenager at that. There's not one single fucking thing. There's no way that Murderbot ever reacts to anything that is inherently inhuman and beyond human comprehension. It's literally just a fucking autistic person with PTSD. These people are so ableist, they're claiming that having PTSD and not being neurotypical makes you inherently inhuman, which is another of the criticisms that this series has been getting since it was fucking written by people who are actually sick and tired of the autistic robot stereotype. And then they continue, and yeah, Prezox, aside from the obvious, the in-universe mindset difference when first encountering Murderbot, so again, they're just continuing with the lie from book 1 that the entire rest of the series disproves. They're claiming that Preservation Ox they had no idea Murderbot was a person, they thought it was just a robot. Even though on Preservation, we know they interact with robots every single fucking day, and they tell us that they view these robots as people and treat them as equals, apparently, even though they're also literally enslaved there. The reason Preservation doesn't have money and stuff is free for all the humans is that the robots are enslaved and are not getting paid for their labor. This person's just pretending that, oh, they just didn't know. And again, even if we lived in an alternate timeline where Preservation Ox team were actually good people who genuinely didn't realize that Murderbot was a person, that still doesn't explain any of their fucking horrific abuse of Murderbot in book 1. as you would understand if you're actually reading and listening to all of these fucking videos and reading all these goddamn transcripts, or, you know, the bare minimum of picking the fucking book up and actually reading it yourself with actual critical thinking skills turned on. They continue, and yeah, Prezox, aside from the obvious with the in-universe mindset difference when first encountering Murderbot, there's also just a bunch of stuff you miss and deliberately got wrong. You act like they wanted Murderbot there and all systems read for slave reasons, when page 15 hints to indifference or even resistance. Jesus Christ! I'm indifferent about us getting a slave that I am then going to force to do all of the labor. Just, oh my god.
Guys, they filed a formal complaint about renting a slave, and then they still rented the slave instead of doing literally.
And then literally use that slave for the exact fucking purpose of a slave, which is forcing it to do literally everything by itself without breaks or thanks. And they were indifferent about the idea of renting out a slave. If you are indifferent about the concept of renting out a slave, I'm going to beat you to death. Just the fact that they're stating indifference towards being they felt indifferent about being slave owners. We should be killing people. All systems read when page 15 hints to indifference or even resistance. Like, parentheses, like latter is very majorly stated in the TV show. Oh, I don't have that. I don't have an actual bingo card, but I don't have that on the bingo card. So now they're trying to claim that shit in the TV show, which I've not fucking watched, and people have told me that they actually do address the slavery apologism in the TV show and make the characters just Jesus Christ. They're literally
the TV show
they're claiming
one of our things.
Huh?
One of our guesses is that the TV show is going to be better about things, so when people
Yeah.
go to read the books, they're going to be like horrified.
I literally predicted before the TV show came out. There's only two options for how the TV show can impact the fandom of the books. One, which is the TV show is even more slavery apology, doing even more slavery apologism than the books, which watching that makes people hyper aware of these tropes that the TV show is making even more excruciating, and then they read the books, and now they can't help but see that exact same fucking thing, just to a slightly lesser degree, and then they start hating the books. Option 2 is that the movie actually tears down some of the slavery apologism, and then new people, or even old people, come to the books and see all the slavery apologism in the books and go, oh my god, what the fuck is this shit? And yeah, the second one is literally correct. Literally, people have been talking about how they watched the show and started reading the books and just have to stop in disgust because it's literally just the house elves all over again, and this slave is literally worshiping its slave owners for literally no fucking reason. Because at least in the TV show, apparently they actually tell Murderbot that it is their equal, and they don't fucking force it to do anything the second they fucking land, literally on day one. Meanwhile, the books, they're there for at least a fucking month, and they've been treating Murderbot as a slave that entire goddamn time. And even after they supposedly realize it's a person, like they didn't know the entire goddamn time, because that's what the rest of the series tells us, they literally continue treating it like a slave. They don't give it a single fucking they don't even give it a mental health day. They don't give it a fucking weekend. They don't give it a 5-minute fucking break. It literally just goes right back to doing the fucking slave labor that they got it for. They don't even say fucking thank you for saving our lives.
Is Rogue Protocol the one that's Alien
Rogue
Isolation
Protocol. Yes. Okay. That's the one she literally admitted. Yeah, I made this because of Alien Isolation. That's why she kept fucking hinting that there was going to be cool alien shit on the terraforming platform where people we're getting off topic. Anyways, this fucking racist who's literally just bringing up the TV show to argue in favor of the books, when that's literally not how this works. And I want to mentally kill people every time they pull this bullshit. Here's a pro tip. If I'm talking about books and you feel the need to bring up shit in the TV show, you're failing step 0, which is we're talking about books. Do not ever fucking come on to anything I am making and see my criticism about the books and try to defend the books by shit that happens in a completely different fucking piece of media. That's not how this works. I know that in the TV show, they also gave the fucking Preservation Ox people actual hobbies and personalities beyond cardboard that exists in the fucking background. Anyways, they have a big paragraph here, especially because I'm zoomed in. It says, and yeah, Prez Ox, aside from the obvious with the in-universe mindset difference, and again, I'm not looking for in-universe justifications. I'm not looking for in-universe explanations. I understand the in-universe characterization. That's not what I'm fucking criticizing. I'm talking about the slavery apologism in how Martha Wells, the fucking white woman from Texas who would rather defend British colonization than apologize for making racist caricatures and anti-black caricatures in fucking particular. I'm talking about how she is choosing to frame all of this and the fact that she is making this slavery apologism. What the fucking characters who are not real people would think or feel is irrelevant because Martha Wells, the white woman from Texas, made all of them up. She literally made up black and brown OCs to be slave owners, to fulfill her fantasy of being such a nice slave owner that her slaves would totally just kill themselves to protect her, to show how good and nice she is. They say, I'll continue. I will not interrupt this time, I swear to God. You might interrupt me, but I'm not interrupting myself. And yeah, Prez Ox, aside from the obvious with the in-universe mindset differences when first encountering Murderbot, there is also encountering Murderbot, there is also just a bunch of stuff you miss and deliberately got wrong. You act like they wanted Murderbot there in All Systems Red for slave reasons, when page 15 hints to indifference or even resistance. Like, latter is very majorly stated in the TV show, as they are not yet aware of it being much different than, like, a human-shaped drone. Or like they were not shaken in their behavior after its face reveal, the pivotal, oh shit, it's a guy in the suit moment when page 27 already has them all scrambling to be more accommodating to Murderbot. They aren't perfect at the change, especially in the show. Oh my god. And you can certainly make statements about that, but you cannot say Murderbot should have been happy to let them brutally die. Yes, I can. Yes, I fucking can, you fucking piece of shit. Yes, slaves should be allowed to celebrate their slave owners getting brutally fucking killed. By a fucking space graboid. Yes, that is a statement. Slaves should be allowed to celebrate when their slave owners are dead. The only reason you could think that is, and I quote, crazy statement in general to jump that quickly to taking away, oh by Jesus Christ, holy fuck. Okay, I'll stop, okay. They aren't perfect at the change, especially in the show, and you can certainly make statements about that, but you cannot say Murderbot should have been happy to let them brutally die. Parentheses, crazy statement in general to jump that quickly to taking away their own human worth. End parentheses. Are you hearing this shit? When its personality is to be pretty indifferent to anything aside from its hobbies, and A, very annoying / bad humans, and B, humans it likes. That statement doesn't make sense. That just sounds like you don't even really recognize its personality, which ironic much. What? This one okay. That's the end of that fucking shithole paragraph. Continue.
If they're saying that you're mischaracterizing Murderbot because Murderbot is indifferent to everything, then Murderbot should have been indifferent to its fucking slave owners.
Literally.
If not outright celebrating.
And again,
it could have just been, okay, that happened.
Literally. They're claiming that I just simply don't understand Murderbot's personality. Mother of fucker. The entire point of what I am doing is I am criticizing the way Martha Wells has set up Murderbot to literally be the happy slave stereotype. I am fully fucking aware that Murderbot worships these goddamn slave owners before the story even begins, when we are not even given a single goddamn reason why it should care about them. It's literally just slavery apologism. You simply don't understand the character's personality. I am aware of the personality. It's that Murderbot is a happy slave who worships slave owners and is willing to kill itself to protect its slave owners because it is a fucking racist caricature written by a white woman from Texas who's been writing this shit for decades. Anyways, Yeah, they're saying its personality is they're just built. Oh, now under the giant ridiculous paragraph they have TLDR. Of course, literature falls apart when you insist what is written down is not what is being said and extrapolate too much on perceived tangential author meaning. Sometimes it's not that deep. Wow, we're going with they're literally claiming it's not that deep.
But they're also going
to But they're also writing this whole response. So they're literally claiming they're literally claiming that if you insist what is written down is not what is being said, because I'm looking at the actual fucking words on the goddamn page and telling you what they mean and what the fucking message is. Okay. But they're claiming that I'm the one lying about what actually happens in the series. And on a side note, man, I'm not a man. You seem quite hung up on Wells's other works and her being a white middle-aged woman from Texas, which you repeat on page 29, 41, 67, and on 7 other occasions. And it's like, yeah, you know why I do that? Because I wasn't aware of that to begin with, and that provides literally all the necessary fucking context for why this series is written that way. I've literally had so many people thank me for telling them that. Because it literally puts... That's the fucking keystone. This is not how keystones work. That's the keystone that makes everything else click together, and that's why they felt such bad fucking vibes from the series, but didn't know how to articulate it. And as soon as they realized, oh, yeah, this is literally written by a white woman from Texas, that explains all of the slavery apologism. Literally.
Why are you talking about her other books? Don't you know? This series that they worship is the only one that exists. And none of her other writings
don't you know that there's no such thing as context? This series definitely exists in a vacuum. There's no politics. There's no politics involved in this. There's no patterns in somebody's writing. You can't tell what somebody thinks about minorities just because of how they treat minorities in the stories they write. And her older works, saying they portray racist stereotypes and that you dislike her writing, which latter is a subjective thing anyways. I cannot engage on whether her other works are truly as racist, as I have not gotten to them yet, but it seems strange to me to base your claims so strongly on works besides the one it's supposed to be about, and to yell at people enjoying the books at its face value for it, when they have no reason otherwise, yet. Ironically, this fixation comes off as the typical Tumblr racism against white people. Are this? Oh my God! They're saying wait. Oh my Lord.
Is this the Anon again?
No, this is probably. They're claiming I'm racist against white people for criticizing Martha Wells's literal decades of established racism. Jesus Christ. Oh my God. Against white people for the crime of having the same skin color as some undoubtedly very bad people. It's a reach, if you ask me, to bring race into a discussion when Murderbot is never stated to be people. They just said POC. That's not... You'd have to say a POC because POC stands for person of color or people of color. Like, they're just saying Murderbot is never stated to be people of color. You mean a person of color.
In interviews, but specifically
in the books, it is white for the visual adaptation, LMAO. Going on a last plea, please, you should start writing scripts for your vids because you got all over the place, nitpick tiny things and then get off topic. There was a good critique in there, such as the pricing, but barely more than 2 paragraphs read of the book and 70 pages of transcript is crazy, and you contradict yourself, such as going from Murderbot as a cyborg to it is a horribly mangled ex-human. What the fuck do you think a cyborg is, bitch? Jesus Christ. Oh my God, they literally don't know what a cyborg is.
Just like Martha Wells doesn't
Jesus
know what
Christ.
non-binary means in 2025.
You contradict yourself, such as going from Murderbot as a cyborg to it is a horribly mangled ex-human. I've never referred to Murderbot as a ex-human. What the fuck? You mean a physically disabled person who is dehumanized? It also seems childish to expect... We're at the very last sentence. It also seems childish to expect people to engage with that stream of random thoughts to be allowed to criticize your opinions when it was very amateurly done. Do they know what amateur means?
No.
And then they tagged it. I had fun rereading the books for this, claiming that they've reread all the books when they're literally. They would have. Again, I keep begging all of these people to just provide me actual evidence from the books to prove their claims that the books aren't slavery apologism. And they keep refusing to do that because there is no proof. If they actually take quotes from the books, it's literally just proof that what I'm saying is true. So this piece of shit is literally claiming that it's racist against white people to criticize racism. All right. Anyways,
for my sentence,
you can continue.
Do they think that by them saying that you say that Murderbot is an ex-human, are they under the impression that dehumanized means that someone is literally physically removed from the concept of humanity and someone becomes an ex-human when they are dehumanized?
I don't fucking know.
Or instead of the actual literal context clue, plenty of it there, meaning that you are literally viewed as less than human by other people as an excuse and a reason for your oppression? Do they think that being dehumanized literally physically means you're no longer a human? And that you're an ex-human? Is that what that line means? Just like Martha Wells not knowing what non-binary means despite having the entire internet at her fingertips and not knowing what non-binary means in 2025 despite claiming to be writing a non-binary character for almost a decade.
You can end the video then.